Hey, Soul Survivors. I'm Cynthia Schiller, and we are going to talk about the shape shifting of the narcissist, the science behind it. Some people feel that it might be a spiritual, demonic type of possession, or it could also be scientifically explained. I'd like to know, do you think it's demonic or do you think science explains it? So, when a narcissist starts to shape shift, which is dramatically altering their demeanor, their tone of voice, their facial expressions, even their body language. And they do this to suit a particular social goal. It's typically part of what's called narcissistic modulation or impression management. So I'd like to know your thoughts. Is it demonic or scientific? So, the psychological basis, impression management and narcissistic defense, they are hypersensitive to how other people perceive them. So, their shape shifting behaviors are often a result of impression management, which is conscious or even sometimes subconscious efforts in order to control how others see them. Also, they had that narcissistic injury that they'd like to avoid. So, whenever they feel criticized, shamed, or even inferior, they can quickly shift their demeanor to regain control or admiration. And they do a lot of mirroring and masking. They'll often mirror other people's emotions or personas in a calculated way to win trust, admiration, and power. So it's not always during like an argument. Sometimes they can shapeshift to suit, maybe getting a new job or finding a new supply. So they can appear warm and charming to someone that they want to seduce or impress, and cold and hostile or even contemptuous seconds later if their ego is wounded. So I know the closer you are to a narcissist, the more likely you are going to be the victim. And their body language and nonverbal cues, often unconsciously, or even deliberately, they will manipulate nonverbal behavior. Research in social and clinical psychology have observed they have dominance displays. That's often why you see them walking ahead, and they can use an upright posture, their arms will spread, hands on hips, chest puffed, and they use this to project power or confidence. And they can also have sudden withdrawal. Whenever they are criticized, they can like cross their arms, lean back, pull away physically. And they do this to signal emotional detachment, sometimes even superiority, or I don't care what you have to say, I'm better than whatever you're sharing. They can do stalking or looming movements, and more covert or malignant narcissism. Physical closeness or intimidating body movements can be used to dominate, and it can be quite uncomfortable when that happens. So, their facial expressions, they can have flash rage, which is a rapid shift from a calm, smiling expression to intense anger, disgust, or even like that blankness, often when their grandiosity is challenged. Now, masking, they can have that frozen smile or an exaggerated, pleasant expression, which they can use to may appear to conceal contempt or even just boredom. And they have a smirk. I'm sure a lot of you have you ever seen the smirk? It's a common sign of contempt or even internal triumph. And they use this during manipulation or even during punishment. Sometimes when they hurt you, they get like a little kick out of it, and then you'll see that little glimmer of happiness that they hurt you. Their eyes and their gaze, they can be staring or even glaring with piercing eyes. They can use prolonged, unbroken eye contact, and they do this to dominate or assert dominance or intimidation. And they'll have that eye roll or gaze aversion where they look away. So when you're speaking to them, they're just not giving you the time of day. They're not giving you the attention. We have to be careful too. Some people, like people with autism, struggle with that sometimes too, where they look away. It's just too intense, too uncomfortable. So everybody that does this is not necessarily a narcissist, but it is a indicator that more is going on. And they will appear bored, and It's a way of signaling your inferiority. They can have dead, flat eyes. And in moments of emotional detachment or when that mask slips, their eyes start to look blank, cold, or affectless. And this is often described by survivors as the most unsettling behavior. I also have a video that goes into the science behind the dark eyes, the black eyes of the narcissist. There's science behind it. So although research on narcissism and neurobiology is still developing, there are some studies that suggest that reduced gray matter in their anterior insula. So the anterior insula is involved in empathy. Reduced function in this area can explain why narcissists can act cruelly without that guilt or remorse. And within their amygdala reactivity, it's heightened within the amygdala, which is associated with threat detection. And this can lead to excessive emotional responses, which will be perceived as insults, like a narcissistic injury to them, to their ego. And they can have that rapid switch in their behavior. Now, the prefrontal cortex, the activity that's going on there, that's responsible for self-control and planning and is often engaged during manipulation or calculation, allowing the narcissist to rehearse and execute those social masks. So the phenomenon of switching, social cognition in action. So a trigger, admiration or flattery, they're going to have this behavior shift where they might be smiling, leaning in, or even those warm eyes. Now, the purpose of that, they want to gain that supply, reinforce that image. If they have a trigger to their ego or even criticism, they can have a blank stare, cold expression, and a glare sometimes. And this reasserts the dominance, or it is used to punish. Another trigger, if they have a desire for control, they'll commanding posture, slow speech, and they do this to intimidate or to persuade. If they're triggered with vulnerability, being exposed, they'll start to have a shift in their behavior. They'll turn on that charm, or they'll be playing the victim. You can see tears sometimes, and they want to regain sympathy or deflect the blame. So there is research that suggests that these shifts, and this is from Cahote and Kernberg, that these shifts are rooted in trauma-based personality development. You got your false self versus your true self, that shape shift. It can be the false sense of self overriding the true self to protect it from shame and humiliation, hypervigilance, especially in covert, which are the vulnerable narcissists. These shifts of survival, it's a mechanism designed to avoid perceived abandonment, judgment, loss of control. So shape-shifting, strategic change of posture, gaze, facial expressions, use of nonverbal dominance, contempt or seduction, triggered by threats to their ego, status, or control. And it's rooted in impression management, trauma, and neurobiological processing differences. So science says it's not demonic, but what do you think? Have you ever seen a narcissist shapeshift? Please hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Topic requests are always welcome.